Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Jennifer. I want to welcome you. Here I talk about beauty, I talk about life, I talk about faith and social and cultural commentary. If that sounds good, welcome, because today I'm going to be talking about the whole Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni saga that has been playing out all over the media the past few months. And I'm going to ask the question, because I was really thinking about this. Is Justin Baldoni a victim of his own super strong pro-feminist narrative? Is the Me Too movement that has been so pervasive and such a strong cultural message for the last 5 years coming to a screeching halt? I think so. In this video, I am going to break down and give you guys my opinion on not only the whole Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively saga, but I'm going to break down and summarize what I believe to be the end of this toxic feminist movement, the end of this all women must be believed Me Too girl power train that has been so strong in the last 5 years. Because in my personal opinion, the whole feminist every woman must be believed mentality is not only hurting regular everyday men and women, including our little girls who are really buying into this girl power narrative, but it also emboldens powerful elitist celebrities like Blake Lively and Taylor Swift, who I believe use their social status, their cultural influence, and their financial power and authority and fame to insinuate themselves in all types of situations that not only benefit them, but seek to push down and punish people who don't align themselves with them. There is a lot that has been going on with the It Ends With Us saga between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. I'm going to do my best to just kind of summarize and highlight the main points. If you don't know all of the, inner workings of everything that's been going on, I want to try to catch you up to it. And I think it's important to highlight some of the main things that have been going on with this case, because it's going to help you understand more of what I'm talking about. So let's get started. What do we know? Well, it really started to heat up on December 21st when Blake Lively issued a legal complaint against her co-star Justin Baldoni. What she insinuated in the complaint was that she was sexually harassed by Justin Baldoni on the set while they were filming It Ends With Us. The immediate backlash against Justin Baldoni was swift, beginning with the very next day on the 22nd of December 2024. On that day, the New York Times issued a scathing article that highlighted all of Blake's complaints against him. The article alleged that Justin Baldoni and his associates, his production team, and everyone associated with him had deliberately and maliciously tried to smear Blake's reputation during and in the immediate follow-up of the release of It Ends With Us. That very same day, Justin Baldoni was dropped by his high-powered Hollywood agency, WME, which is a huge deal. WME's roster is a who's who of every A-list name you can think of in Hollywood. So to be dropped by them was a huge blow to Justin. The very next day, it started a little bit of a tidal wave on social media. So many Hollywood celebrities were coming out and aligning themselves with Blake and showing support for Blake, including Gwyneth Paltrow, Amy Schumer, Amber Heard. Even the author of the book It Ends With Us, on which the movie of the same name is based, Colleen Hoover, aligned herself with Blake Lively. And it's interesting, on the day of this filming, I just read right before I turned on the camera that there are rumors going around that Colleen Hoover herself may or may not be retiring from writing, which is interesting. So I'm gonna look down at my notes here because I have got a ton of notes. On the 23rd, Justin Baldoni's people responded to Blake's lawsuit. They called her actions during the promotional tour of the movie distasteful. And they were alleging this because a lot of people were left scratching their heads in August 2024 during the promotions for the movie, because the movie itself is a very serious subject about domestic abuse. And Blake, in many interviews, seemed very giggly, very bubbly, almost like a high school teenager that was just super excited. She was talking a lot about her new hair care line that she was promoting, and they kind of thought that it was a little weird, given that that type of demeanor and that type of presence in promoting the movie was just in such stark contrast to the dark subject matter of the movie. So at that time, there was a lot of people just kind of wondering what was off here, what was going on, why was she behaving so strangely? So that is kind of what is behind Justin's People's statement on December 23rd, 2024, just talking about how her behavior during the promotion of that film was distasteful. And on December 24th, 2024, the organization Vital Voices, who gives out awards to men that they believe are compassionate and who are public voices who advocate on behalf of women and girls, they had given Justin Baldoni earlier in the month of December an award, and they publicly on social media make an announcement that they are going to rescind that award from Justin. So things are kind of happening. It's almost like a snowball effect, and it seems like so many people, there's so much stuff coming out, all this stuff is mounting against Justin. Now, the actual movie, It Ends With Us, made quite a bit of money, over $350 million worldwide box office. So it was a popular movie. I forgot to mention, Justin Baldoni hosts a podcast, and it's called the Man Enough podcast. And he is known as being a very, very staunch feminist. He is a man who is very, very vocal about advocating for women and girls, about how their voices need to be amplified and they need to be heard, right? So Justin Baldoni is a host of a podcast with this gal named Liz Plank. And in addition to everything I've told you guys so far, Liz Plank pulls out of her podcast that she co-hosts with Justin. So he's losing his agency representation. He's losing awards that he's been given. He's losing his podcast. He's got these allegations from Blake. I mean, it's all seems to be falling apart for Justin at this point. And all of this is going down right up until Christmas Eve. His publicist publicly parts ways from him for what she cites breach of contract. So you can imagine it was not a good Christmas for Justin Baldoni, to say the least. So now we fast forward to the last day of 2024, December 31st, and it comes out Justin's team, his legal team, right, which he now has. Obviously, this guy's gotta, start getting some legal teams behind him. They start hinting that they have an explosive countersuit that's coming. And listen to this. They alleged at that time that Blake Lively's PR team attempted to maliciously take Justin Baldoni down, and that it wasn't the other way around, because she alleged basically that he was harassing her, but that he was deliberately trying to smear her reputation and take her down. But Justin's team is hinting, hey, we've got some stuff coming. It's going to be explosive. And they basically say, we've got the real story and we've got real evidence. So everyone at that point is basically like doing a Mr. Burns, like, ooh, like, what do we have? This is heating up here, because basically up to this point, it had been Blake and her kind of weird, way that she was promoting the movie on the red carpet. And then also in the summertime, a lot of these videos were starting to resurface of past interviews that Blake has given over the years, where she seems very contrary in the videos. She seems very mean girlish. You can go back on YouTube and just, look up Blake Lively interviews where supposedly she has mean girl behavior. And you can tell it's actually a little bit disturbing when you see how she talks to and treats reporters and people. So up until that point, you had, the success of the movie, and you had her weird antics. And then I believe that is when she kind of came out with this whole, well, hey, guess what? He's trying to smear me. And not only that, but he had harassed me on the set of that movie. So then we had all that stuff happening. So by the 31st, everyone is just like, okay, something's going down here. Both of these sides are duking up for a fight. Okay, so now we are on January 2025, and everything that Justin Baldoni's legal team was hinting at the day before comes to a head when his legal team slaps a $250 million lawsuit against the New York Times. This is from the independent.co UK's article online that I found about the timeline and the sequence of events. And of that January 1st lawsuit, it says Baldoni sues the New York Times for $20 million. Baldoni and 9 other plaintiffs, including publicists Melissa Nathan and Jennifer Abel, brought this $250 million lawsuit against the newspaper, alleging libel and false light invasion of privacy. It was filed in Los Angeles Superior Court, and among their claims were the New York Times cherry-picked and altered communication stripped of necessary context to deliberately mislead the public. And some of the things that Justin was claiming in his suit against the New York Times was that he was, quote unquote, aggressively berated by Reynolds, meaning Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively's husband. He was aggressively berated by Reynolds after Baldoni, who suffers from back problems, asked Lively how much she weighed before he lifted her to ensure he could safely perform the lift without injury. So on the exact same day, what happens? Blake Lively actually sues Baldoni. It goes from complaints filed to an actual lawsuit. And in Blake's lawsuit, which she filed on the 1st of January in New York federal court, she accuses Baldoni and his PR team of organizing a sophisticated scheme to undermine her reputation because she spoke up about the alleged misconduct on the set. So you have these two ginormous lawsuits filed on the same day, January 1st, and the very next day, January 2nd, both Justin Baldoni's lawyers and the New York Times respond. So the New York Times, in response to Justin's lawsuit against them, they come out and they say that their story was meticulously and responsibly reported. It was based on a review of thousands of pages of original documents, including the text messages and emails that we quote accurately and at length in the article. To date, Wayfair Studios, which is Mr. Justin Baldoni's production company, they're saying that that studio and Mr. Baldoni, the other subjects of the article, and their representatives have not pointed to a single error. We published their full statement in response to the allegations in the article as well, and we plan to vigorously defend against the lawsuit. And to counter that statement, Justin's legal team is issuing their own statement in which they say, in this vicious smear campaign fully orchestrated by Blake Lively and her team, the New York Times cowered to the wants and whims of two powerful, untouchable Hollywood elites using doctored and manipulative texts and intentionally omitting texts which dispute their chosen PR narrative. So it is starting to get really, really vicious and really, really hairy at this point. And Justin's team ends their statement by saying, make no mistake, however, as we all unite to take down the New York Times by no longer allowing them to deceive the public, we will continue this campaign of authenticity by also suing those individuals who have abused their power to try and destroy the lives of my clients. While their side embraces partial truths, we embrace the full truth and have all of the communications to back it. The public will decide for themselves as they did when this first began. So you notice what they say in the end part of that statement, Justin and his legal team, they say we will continue the campaign of authenticity by also suing those individuals who have abused their power to try and destroy the lives of my clients. So what could that mean? Are there additional lawsuits coming? Are Blake and Ryan Reynolds actually going to be sued by Justin and his team? Because they've already sued the New York Times. They are going on their warpath, their campaign of authenticity to hold the New York Times to a journalistic standard. But are they hinting of something else coming down the road? So then everyone really starts to lose it. And yet everyone's thoughts and ideas about what might happen next prove true, because on January 17th, Justin Baldoni countersues Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds for the crazy amount of $400 million, y'all. They say in this article, after weeks of threatening to countersue Lively and Reynolds, Baldoni finally filed a $20 million lawsuit against the couple for allegedly attempting to destroy his reputation and career. This is getting to be crazy, y'all, crazy. A lot of people were commenting that $400 million, what are they talking, or like, what is he thinking? Ryan Reynolds isn't even worth that amount. But I do think that Justin Baldoni was trying to make, and his legal team were trying to make a statement with the amount of money that they were suing for. Basically, like, up until this point, people were kind of starting to think like, oh my gosh, this guy is toast. He's the total underdog. What is it? He's done for. But then he comes back and he's like, yeah, which is a little bit cray, but it's definitely a power move. I got to tell you. And the other reason why people said that it was a crazy power move on Justin's part was, listen to what his legal team said. They said it is clear based on our own all-out willingness to provide all complete text messages, emails, video footage, and other documentary evidence that was shared between the parties in real time that this is a battle she will not win and will certainly regret. Blake Lively was either severely misled by her team or intentionally and knowingly misrepresented the truth. I mean, right? That's crazy. So basically on the 17th of January, Justin and his team are like, we got the receipts. We have got the receipts and you are going down, girl. I mean, that's basically what happened. So after Justin's counter lawsuit for $400 million, you have just 4 days later, on January 21st, Justin and his team released a 7-minute long video of Justin and Blake shooting a dance scene for the film with audio, okay? Because a lot of the stuff that Blake put in her suit talked about how she was made to feel super uncomfortable while on the set filming with Justin at many different points in times, both in front of the camera and behind the camera. For example, she talked about how she was breastfeeding in her trailer and was completely just accosted by them showing up to her trailer unannounced, when it's coming out in the evidence that Justin and his team are providing was that he asked and she invited. So there's a lot of he said, she said going on, but Justin is actually able to start proving his case through text messages and emails. And now he goes all guns blazing here, releasing this 7-minute long video. Because up to that point, again, you know, she's claiming that she was very uncomfortable on the set. For example, she wanted an intimacy coordinator to help her feel comfortable and was alleging that nothing of the sort was provided for her. Justin's team is countering by saying, look, like, we offered you an intimacy coordinator and you declined to meet with them. So again, a lot of he said, she said stuff going on. So I really think that is what prompted Justin and his team to want to release this 7-minute long video. And in the video, it shows her, she's kind of giggling. You can hear what they're saying faintly. There is audio, but there's also captions that are provided with this video. You can look it up on YouTube if you want to watch it for yourself. Hey, it's Jennifer. I'm in the editing process and I just wanted to put this in. So yeah, I had originally wanted to include portions of this video in my video about this whole saga, but I am telling you, this case is so unbelievably crazy and there's stuff coming out in the press literally every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. I have no idea what's going to happen, but just based on the fact that Blake and Ryan's legal team want to put a gag order on Justin, and I think they want to do it because it's specifically related to the fact that he released this video, I could put it in and then later be met with a copyright strike, and no one wants that. So again, I would encourage you, if you really do want to watch this, just look for it online while it's still available. Who knows? It might not be available in a week or two as, you know, I post this. So that's basically why I am not putting in the video. I just don't want any problems. What I saw when I watched that video was I saw her giggling a lot. I saw her kind of, you know, she was making fun of him. She was kind of just being very lighthearted about everything. Like, for example, at one point, she was making fun of his nose. And, you know, he was kind of playing along. He was agreeing with her that he had a big nose, but she was basically making fun of his nose and telling him that he should take time off and, you know, for a month and write it off for insurance and just get it taken care of, which I think is particularly mean girl behavior, considering that Blake herself had a nose job early in her career. I don't understand where this girl gets off making fun of somebody's physical attribute. Can you imagine what she would have done if he would have been caught on camera making fun of a physical attribute of hers? Like, that is just beyond, that is just not cool. There's also another point during that video where she is seen as saying that, you know, they should kiss because if you do, you're kind of giving them, quote unquote, meaning the audience, you're giving them what they want to see. I mean, I didn't get the impression that she was this shrinking violet in the course of that 7-minute long scene. actually, also what I was seeing was not only with him kind of playing along with her mean girl jokes, but I kind of saw him constantly trying to rein her in. She was constantly breaking character. He was trying to get them into character, filming this dance scene, and she kept always breaking character, which seemed very, very annoying to watch. So this footage is released, and of course Blake and her team have to counter, and she's basically calling him releasing this a pathetic attempt to manipulate the public. And she also claims that all the footage in that particular video and that every movement was improvised by him. She's trying to say that he was improvising everything, that he was just going off script and being very, very manipulative and being improper to her. Whereas, as far as I was concerned, when I was watching that, I felt the exact opposite. You watch that video, see how you feel about it, but that's just my take on that one. Oh, she also claimed that no intimacy coordinator was present during that particular moment, which leaves me to wonder what the heck, because that kind of doesn't jive, because Justin can produce evidence and correspondence with her that he indeed did try to provide her with an intimacy coordinator to make her feel comfortable, but she refused to meet with that intimacy coordinator. So there's a lot of inconsistencies in Blake's allegations, in my opinion. And then fast forward to January 27th, you have a super long voicemail that Justin left for Blake Lively at, I guess, 2 o'clock in the morning, where he is extensively falling over himself, apologizing to her. And the conversation is, or that the voicemail that he's leaving is in reference to the fact that she wanted to make a ton of changes to that rooftop scene, and she wanted to completely rewrite everything, and that she had been in cooperation with her husband and, wait for it, Taylor Swift, to try to rework that whole scene to Blake's benefit and to Blake's liking. And Justin wasn't super comfortable, it seems, with all of these proposed changes that the three of them were trying to make, but yet it seems like he was also falling over himself to try to, I don't want to say cower to her, but to show that he understood why she wanted to make the changes. So it was all just very, very weird and muddled. I listened to the voicemail and I kind of got the feeling that he was definitely feeling like everybody was closing in on him, and he was basically being bullied and made to make changes to his own movie by Blake and her super high-powered husband and friends. So the very next day, January 28th, after that super long apologetic voicemail from Justin to Blake was leaked, the January court date for 2026 was set between the two of these parties. And also in the last few days, we have had news in the press of Blake Lively and her legal team trying to issue a gag order on Justin's lawyer, Brian Friedman, which I find particularly interesting considering the fact that, back in December when Blake released her legal complaint, the very next day, she has a huge article that is in her own favor in the New York Times, alleging all the, this laundry list of complaints against Justin. That's okay, but when Justin tries to counter in a public way, she wants a gag order slapped on him. So this is all very, very interesting, and that is the main gist of the timeline, everything that we have coming up to this point. Okay, so now you might be thinking, where does Taylor Swift come into play in all of this? Where she comes into play was that at some point in 2023, mid 2023, when there was a lot of infighting going on behind the scenes regarding this movie, there was a meeting at Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively's penthouse in New York to which Justin had been summoned. And Justin has said that in that meeting, he was berated by Ryan Reynolds. He basically said that he felt that he was being bullied to make changes to his entire movie, his entire production. And at some point, Taylor Swift was in attendance at that meeting. And we know that because representatives of Taylor have since come out and said that, Taylor was there, but she wasn't aware that it was any kind of official meeting. She was just visiting her friend. So we all know that Taylor at some point was at this meeting, and Justin is claiming that the three of them basically bullied him into wanting to make all the changes to the movie that Blake wanted made. And he claimed that they were all trying to basically working together to rework certain things, particularly that scene that Blake hated, which was the rooftop scene that she wanted all these changes made to. And there is a clear correlation and connection between Ryan and Taylor insinuating themselves in all of this, that it wasn't just Blake. In the text messages and correspondence that followed between Justin and Blake, where Justin's basically saying like, look, like, you can tell me that you want changes to be made. You don't have to involve your superstar friends to try to convince me. So that leads people with, some reasoning in their brains to deduce that Taylor and Ryan were at some point involved with Blake in trying to rework and restyle this entire movie and wrangle it away from Justin. I'll put it up for you on the screen as I tell you, but there were texts from Blake to Justin in April of 2023, and she basically talks about how her strongest and most powerful allies are her husband and her friend, who we all now know was Taylor, because Taylor was the one who was at that meeting. And she basically likens herself to a Game of Thrones character that has these powerful dragons in her corner that she can unleash at any time if she needs to, so she doesn't really have to worry about anything, which I think is pretty indicative of some serious bullying behavior. Brings me to what I think is even the more interesting aspect of this entire saga is, what does this have to do with the super strong feminist Me Too movement of the last 5 and 6 years? What does this have to say about this super strong girl power mentality and all women need to believe no matter what type of idea that has been permeating our culture? I find it particularly disturbing and dangerous, because I think that this whole movement, this whole women must be believed no matter what type of mentality is just toxic. It's toxic to women and it's toxic to men. It pits men and women against one another. It takes away individual accountability. It takes away the reasoned stance of looking at situations and individuals on a case-by-case basis. And what it does is it creates spite and hate and division, and it tries to pit people into groups. That's what I personally hate about the woke movement that has been in our culture in the last 10 years or so, is that it's all about division. It's all about pitting people into categories and subcategories and demanding that these people remain in these boxes that are assigned by skin color and gender and all this kind of stuff. And you put people in these boxes and you expect people to behave a certain way in these boxes. They can't deviate from the boxes, and anybody that deviates from the narrative is completely canceled. And that's what I think is at the heart of this toxic feminist movement, this toxic Me Too girl power mentality. What I also find so fascinating is that Justin Baldoni himself was one of the biggest proponents of this culture, of this movement. I mean, the guy is a self-professed feminist. He has been going off about being a feminist in the media for years and years and years. In my research for this video, I was going back and looking at articles 6 years ago in 2019 where he was talking about why it's so important that all women need to be believed. He was a staunch feminist. I mean, the guy hosted a podcast about feminism. So I can't help but wonder what is going through Justin's mind right now about everything that's been happening to him over the last month. I mean, his mind must be truly reeling right now. He's talking all about the power of women and healing. There's these pictures where he's doing these healing ceremonies with his wife. I mean, this guy, for all intents and purposes, is almost like a girl. I mean, he is really, really into the whole feminism thing. And while some part of me admires the guy for being so staunchly pro-women and, believing in it so strongly and all that, and I am sure that even now he is hoping that everything that he has put out there in the public, and I'm not saying that it's an act, I actually do feel that he believes everything that he talks about. I still feel that like he thinks that this is going to be his saving grace to kind of prove to the public and to everyone that he is indeed a champion of women. So in his, in Justin's mind, he thinks that this is ultimately helping him. But what I see is just this whole culture of belief that he buys into and believes, in my personal opinion, is a beast that is ultimately is what is going to eat him up. The reason why I think it's this beast that is just eating people up is it seems like everyone has already forgotten about the whole Johnny Depp Amber Heard debacle. I mean, do you remember back in the beginning how everyone just automatically jumped on the Amber Heard train and just completely dropped Johnny? He was dropped from all of his professional things, like Disney dropped him, his agency dropped him, he lost jobs, no one believed him. She won her UK case against him. I mean, Johnny Depp was dead in the water. It was only until he filed, his counter civil suit against Amber in the United States and brought out all these witnesses and all this evidence against Amber and her lies and mistruths and half-truths and inconsistencies that the public really started to see how dangerous this whole all women must be believed without question mentality was. I mean, time and time again in the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, he was producing evidence that was in direct contradiction to things that she had said, like timelines that she was providing, things that she was doing. He was providing witness testimony that directly countered pretty much everything Amber said. And it was found that she was even lying about little things that she didn't need to lie about. Remember when she was talking about how she had pledged $7 million to a charity, and as of that court date, that date that she was on the witness stand talking, she had not yet fulfilled that promise of giving that $7 million to a charity, and Johnny Depp's lawyer was calling her out on it, and she was basically trying to split hairs with Johnny's lawyer and say, well, I pledged to give this money, and to her, pledging is the same as giving it. And the lawyer's trying to say, no, like pledging something, saying you're going to do something is not the same as, you've done it. It was just crazy. It was like all these little things, all this semantics, all these things that Amber was trying to say, she was splitting hairs about, which were not true. So if she's lying about the little things, then it started getting more in the public's mind, like what else was she lying about? The point being, this whole Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial started really bringing to light this whole idea of how safe is it to just completely run with whatever a woman says about anything, whether harassment or violence, whatever. It's like, yes, these are serious issues that happen, but is it more prudent to actually look at each accusation or each individual or each scenario on a case-by-case basis, look at their character, look at the facts? Isn't that more important than automatically just taking sides with the woman and running with it? Because what was so dangerous about that all women must be believed no matter what mentality was oftentimes behind those claims were very, very rich, very, very powerful, very, very influential people that were able to wield that power against people that they were accusing, and they could basically take down and destroy anybody. And that's what I really think is the connection between these two cases now, because now you have people like Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively and Taylor Swift who have now seemingly inserted themselves into a drama like this. And another reason why I find the Me Too movement and this all women must be believed no matter what type of mentality particularly dangerous, in addition to everything we've talked about, is that I find that it's in direct violation of God's plan for men and women. God created man and he created woman, and he created them not to, hoard or try to lure power over the other. He basically created them to complement one another, to work in concert with one another. They are uniquely and beautifully made. They are distinct, and man and woman are complementary toward one another. They should not be pitted against one another. And yes, there are distinct biological, psychological differences between men and women and have been since the beginning of time. And one of the things I found particularly disturbing when I was researching this video was I came across a Variety article online from 2018 where Justin is basically talking about why he's a feminist, talking about the Me Too movement. And in this specific article, he's talking about how he views men and women as being exactly the same. he says there is no difference between men and women, and that is something that he is trying to impart on his children as he's raising them. So let me read this to you from this Variety article. So this was from 2018, and he says, the most important thing men can do, Baldoni says, is listen. Listen to women and each other. But he also feels that parenting and the collective socialization of young boys in America is key. He points out that his daughter, who is 3, likes to dance and sing Frozen and watch Moana, as do some of her male friends. They turn 7 and suddenly they can't do that anymore because they want to be accepted by their friends. So he's talking about the little boys, that by the time they turn 7, that they are somehow losing some part of their identity if they want to sing a Frozen song, and they can't do it if they want to be accepted. So he's saying, so they want to be accepted by their friends, and if they're not, there's nothing more lonely than that, he says. We need to be creating programs that teaches our children at a very young age that there is no difference between a boy and a girl. Boys can like pink and girls can like blue. We shouldn't be calling little girls who like sports tomboys, because what does that say? And I kind of get what he's saying, and this quote on its face can seem somewhat innocuous, but there is an underlying and dangerous and insidious message underneath what he's saying. And I don't really think that people like Justin Baldoni are doing this to for any malintent. But I do really believe that they do believe this, and they think that it is innocuous and that it should just be accepted, that girls can be like boys and boys can be like girls, and that there's no difference. And that thinking is very, very detrimental to both girls and boys, because they are different, and that is okay. There are psychological and physical differences between men and women, and have been since the beginning of time. And when you think about it, there are just logical fallacies and inconsistencies in these types of arguments. Because when you think about it, what is he propagating here? Like, he's talking in this article how many years ago about how there is no difference between girls and boys, and that is what he is teaching his children. Well, okay, then if there's no difference between girls and boys, no difference between men and women, then why do all women need to be believed no matter what, without question, in the Me Too movement? I mean, do you see how dangerous that is? Do you see how those logical inconsistencies just can wreak havoc on a society? So now he's basically become a victim of his own narratives, especially now, because up to this point, he was portrayed as this man who was the ultra feminist, right? He was like the ultra male who really, really championed women, almost to the exclusion of men, his own kind. So one could look at this, and if Blake's claims are to be believed without question, then he even looks like even more of a villain, right? Because up to this point, he's been propagating the feminist agenda, but now what is he doing behind the scenes to take down Blake, a woman, and all women should be believed, right? So there's so many inconsistencies in this types of thinking. So you have this destructiveness of what modern feminism has become, right? The Me Too movement, all women have to be believed no matter what. There's no differences between boys and girls. There's no differences between men and women. That pits men and women against each other. No doubt creates division and strife between men and women. And so now what do you have? You even have women being pitted against one another. And that has become alarmingly clear, because in the last few days, we've been getting reports in the media that Taylor Swift is taking a conscious step back from her friend Blake Lively. She feels that she is being unfairly insinuated in this legal battle between Blake and Ryan and Justin, and Taylor wants no part of it. Taylor, if nothing else, is a consummate businesswoman who does not want her bottom line affected. So I found this article in the Daily Mail that I want to show you guys, and it talks about it. So it basically says, the headline says, Taylor Swift taking a step back from Blake Lively as dramatic legal battle with Justin Baldoni threatens their decade-long friendship. So basically it's saying she's taking a step back because she basically feels that she was used as an intimidation tactic by the actress, meaning Blake, in a lawsuit that Taylor never wanted to be embroiled in. The singer, 35, was dragged into the explosive legal feud between Lively and Justin Baldoni when he claimed his co-star used Swift to intimidate him at a meeting with her husband Ryan Reynolds about edits she had made to a rooftop scene in their film It Ends With Us. In Justin's $400 million lawsuit filed earlier this month, Baldoni said Swift showed up and made him feel like he needed to comply with Blake's directions for the script. Now remember, Justin's legal team outlines this, and there is proof in the text messages after this supposed meeting between Justin and Blake. So basically Taylor's clapping back, right? And she's saying that was uncool, it was unnecessary, and it was reportedly her final straw, that she never planned to be at that meeting, that she just showed up wanting to, visit her friend, and this meeting was already in progress. For the time being, she's taken a step back from Blake because she doesn't want to get tangled in this more than she already has, which is far more than she ever needed to be, an insider told thedailymail.com. So in my personal opinion, what I think is happening here is that Taylor does not want her bottom line to be affected. She might have proclaimed her love for her bestie Blake Lively to the heavens and shouted it from every rooftop, and they are linked arms together forever, besties. But when she sees that this is affecting her bottom line, she's going to distance herself. Now, to be fair, there have been some reports that have come out since this Daily Mail article in the last few days that have said, no, everything's fine, like this isn't true, they're still besties. I just kind of think that might be maybe damage control on Blake's part. Like, obviously we can't prove that, but I'm more likely, in my opinion, like I said, to believe this article, because Taylor Swift did not get to be Taylor Swift without being a very shrewd businesswoman. And she knows what type of influence, what type of cultural influence she has. She's extremely wealthy. She comes from an extremely wealthy family. This woman's never known hardship, and she's never been told no. She is a cultural phenom, and she knows it, and she doesn't want anything to affect that. She doesn't want anything affecting her bottom line. So she is going to distance herself if she feels that she has to save her own livelihood and her own reputation. You can count on that. I don't know about how effective these types of statements will be. Say, for example, if Justin and his lawyer, Brian Freeman, next year decide that they want to call Taylor to be a witness in this whole legal debacle, because, Justin can attest to the fact that Taylor was there, and Justin himself might be able to sit and give testimony and attest to what happened during that meeting and how and why he felt bullied, which is not a good look for Taylor. It's not a good look for Blake or Ryan either. This is basically a huge mess. And the way I see it, this all goes back to this destructive and pervasive thinking that has permeated our culture for so long about how, women don't need men, and there's no difference between men and women. And it's just an ugly, divisive way to think. So many of the world's problems and the ways that men and women think about and talk and speak to each other and relate to one another, so many of these issues and problems could be resolved if we just really looked to God and looked to God's plan about what he had for the human race. And his plan for the human race, again, was for the man and the woman to be complementary to one another, to fit together like two perfectly designed puzzle pieces. He wanted them to complement each other and to be companions for one another. He wanted wives to obey their husbands. And I know that kind of, modern women especially hear that quote from the Bible and they bristle. You have to remember that yes, God did say that he wanted women to obey their husbands, but they always forget that he also wanted a man to cherish his wife. And when those two things happen, when those two things are in interplay, the problems just dissipate by themselves. When you have a man actively looking to cherish and appreciate and love his wife and listen to his wife, then you're gonna have a woman that's going to want to obey her husband and do what he wants her to do, because he loves her and he wants the best for her and he would never do anything to hurt her. And in turn, she's gonna want to please him and do what he wants. The interplay of it is just so beautiful, and it's the way that God designed it. And then we get into sin, and we get into the fallen ways that the world wants us to think, and the fallen ways that modern feminism wants us to think and behave. And that's how you get into these huge messes, like where we find ourselves now when we watch this drama between Blake and Justin Baldoni. This is what we've all been taught. You know, I'm 50 years old. I'm a Gen Xer. I can remember from being super little, being fed this kind of stuff from teachers, from college professors when I was going to college in the 90s. You know, women don't need men. You don't need to have children. You don't need to get married. It's all about a career. Don't let a man tell you what to do. Don't ever, you know, it's just like, it's so toxic and it's so hateful and it's so divisive. I mean, it wasn't until I got married and had children of my own and really returned to my faith and started realizing that it's a blessing to be able to have children. It's a blessing to be married, to have children, to take these little souls, your children, and to be stewards, to be their stewards on earth and to just help guide them to heaven. I mean, there is nothing more noble that a woman can do than to bear and raise children. That's the most important job. I mean, wouldn't you say that's the most important job? I feel it's the most important job. And obviously I'm a woman and I'm speaking for myself, a woman, but it's just, I was just fed just really, really hateful diatribes the whole time that I was growing up. And when I was away from the church, I didn't really question them. I didn't really think about, how does God want me to think about all this stuff that I'm being thrown at about how being a feminist is the only way to live and that men are hateful and that you don't need them. I mean, this is just really where we've come. And that's why I'm really grateful that these dramas, like between Justin and Blake, are being played out. I mean, obviously I'm not grateful for the dramas that they're going through because I think that it's detrimental to both parties. But what I mean is, I think that it's a good thing that these things are being played out so that people can actually look at what's happening and discern the truth in these types of situations. And they can see what's going on, what the dynamics are, what is toxic thinking and what is rational thinking. People are just tired of being pitted against one another. They are tired of being told that they have to believe a certain thing no matter what, and they're a horrible, rotten person if they don't. If people have souls and hearts and minds and they use them and they think about how God wants them to act and they see that stuff like this toxic Me Too movement where all women have to be believed no matter what, and if you don't believe them, you are going to be canceled. Like, this type of thinking is destructive and it's hateful and it's ruining our society and it's ruining the way that men and women relate to each other. It's ruining the way that women relate to each other. It just breeds this whole atmosphere of pitting people against each other, people not believing one another, people pitted against one another. And that is not a way to live. People are realizing that you have to look at individuals and situations on a case-by-case basis. And you don't have to worry about if they're a man or if they're a woman or what color they are. You have to look at what's going on with that individual. Are they an honest person? Are they a forthright person? Are they telling the truth? We are individuals. And it even goes back to when you think about why we celebrate an individual like Martin Luther King Jr. You know, he was talking about his dream was a society where you didn't look at someone because they were a man or a woman or because they were black or white. You looked at them and you judged them based on the context of their character. And that's what I really think is changing in our culture now. This is the big shift that's happening. People are really, really tired of this division and this tribalism, and they are tired of people telling them that they have to think a certain way and they have to act a certain way and believe and behave in certain ways, and if they don't, there's going to be consequences. And unfortunately, someone like Justin is now a victim of buying into all of this himself. And you know what? I don't think it could have been avoided, especially if you are going to buy into a hateful narrative like that. A narrative that leads people down the wrong roads. This is what ends up happening. You become a victim of the logical inconsistencies and the fallacies in your own belief system. It's really sad. With that being said, I don't really believe that Justin Baldoni is a malicious person based on all of the research that I've done and the evidence that his legal team thus far has produced and put out in the public domain. I think that he does have a stronger case against Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds than they have against him. I've gone back through his Instagram and researched him a little bit, and I don't really ascribe to a lot of the woke platitudes that he does. I really think that he's a little out there in his thinking, which is fine. He can believe whatever he wants to believe, but I do feel sorry for the guy because he really was taken for a ride. People that kind of wanted to use his own sensibilities against him. I really would encourage you guys to do your own research on this. I don't want you to take everything I say and have it be gospel. I mean, definitely look and research and figure stuff out for yourself. But this was pretty much a compilation from all the stuff that I was looking at, all the stuff that I was reading. Like I said, I do think he has a stronger case. Who the heck knows what is going to happen? What is going to be played out in the media in the interim? Is this judge that Blake Lively is now petitioning going to issue a gag order on Justin and his legal team? I don't really know. I would think, to be fair, probably not, considering all the stuff that Blake herself has put out in the press, which she feels is fine to do. But yet she wants to stop Justin and his team from doing the same. So this is quite fascinating, you guys. What do you guys think about my thoughts on this? Do you agree with me? Do you think that this toxic feminist mentality is at the heart of all of this drama? I know that was a little bit of a long and exhausting one, although very, very interesting. And also I've got some beauty stuff planned coming up. As you know, I make beauty content for women 40 and up. I'm all about simple, streamlined beauty tutorials and beauty education. What do you guys want to know about? Because I definitely want to have a balance of content here on the channel. I've been producing a lot of commentary videos because there has just been so much going on, both in, entertainment media, royal family news, and it's just all kind of just exploding right now. So it's kind of hard not to make these types of videos. But if you're interested in beauty content, I would encourage you to go back through some of my playlists. I've got some awesome makeup playlists and skincare playlists, videos that you can binge watch about how to care for your skin. But let me know what you guys want to see, okay? So thank you so much for spending this time with me. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you so much to all my new subscribers and watchers. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, like the video, comment. It helps me out so much in the algorithm because it's very hard for smaller channels to get promoted and to get out there. So I appreciate all of you. I will speak to you very soon. Bye.